Start, could you take us back to the beginning? How did you discover your passion for storytelling and the arts?
So I was really influenced. I wish I could say I was influenced by like, people always ask, well, who's your Asian role models, growing up. But like, I third generation Asian American. I grew up watching Disney Channel and watching the Batman movies with Michael Keaton and the Superman movies. And then I would loved Harry Potter. And then I saw Harry Potter. And that was the first time I realized the characters weren't real characters. I was like, wait, these are actors playing these characters and kids like me. So that's when I was a kid and I was like, oh my God, this is a job. And that's when I asked my mom, and my mom like, oh, how do you do this? How do you get an agent and everything? And then and she was like, Michael, we only had one actor friend at the time. It was like this beautiful blonde haired friend of my sister. And then she was like, look, she tries it and it's hard for her. And you see people like her on TV all the time. Do you see anyone that looks like you on TV? And that was the first time I was kind of confronted with my, like, I guess, oh, I'm Asian, like I'm
Yeah.
different, but I don't know if it was a mixture of stubbornness or determination. I was like, yeah, I want to do it anyway. So then that started my journey, and here we are.
You've also said in previous interviews that you made safe decisions growing up and followed kind of that more traditional path. What led to that pivot from pre-med into the arts?
Oh yeah, oh, you did your research. That's right. I was pre-med. So I was the firstborn son of I have two other siblings, and I was always like, ironically, follow all the rules. Like my mom was like, coming out of the womb, my mom was like, Michael, do this, don't do this. Great, easy enough. That's life. Listen to your mom. I won't touch this. I will touch, don't listen to all the
Yeah.
rules. Follow your teacher's rules. Get good grades. Never. So I was never the rebel. I never was in the principal's office. I never disobeyed, I guess, curfew or, did anything out of line. But the artistic side was just boiling in there, so I was always after I asked my mom, to do all this acting stuff, she was like, okay, well, you got to prove yourself. You just say you want it, but you're not, I haven't seen you audition for anything or join the school plays. So I was like, okay, I'll prove it. So I was auditioning for the plays and getting roles, and being part of like the school's like TV news show, and like learning video editing and directing and stuff, whilst still getting good grades, listening to the teachers, getting good grades that were good enough to get into NYU, and then, applying for like the pre-med program, not art stuff, but still just doing it kind of like a superhero, like on the side, like academic by day, actor by night. But finally it came to a head where I was in NYU and I took one like film class that I was able to take as a non, film major. And then I just walked in that basement, and it was like all the film, all the posters of all the, the films the graduates had made and stuff. And I was like, oh man, this is, if I was going to put all my eggs in one basket, it would be here, So that's when I sat my parents down. I was like, okay, mom and dad, I've proven that, like, if I put my mind to it, I did it. I didn't slack my whole life. Like if I had a goal, I accomplished it. So this is my new goal. I want to go into the film business. Can I do it? And then they were like, they were kind of like, oh yeah, you kind of have proven yourself, so we do trust you. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
Okay. You've had a lot of success already in your young career. When you look back, is there a particular moment that stands out?
Man, yeah, there've been many times where I was just like, I was realizing, oh wow, this is like the right thing to do, even when I had my first manager, in a way, when my mom was dissuading me because of being, I guess, Asian and stuff, from like into this industry of like, that's not used to us. My first manager was like, oh yeah, and they're kind of trying to say it like nice, like, we have no one like you,
Mm.
you know? And that's been kind of cool because I guess I always wanted to break stereotypes with the roles I was playing.
Mhm.
Um, uh, unfortunately, in the beginning, there were all the Asian roles were pretty stereotypical,
Yeah.
and it was kind of, I had like uh, I hit a wall because I was kind of like, oh, I would have almost more success if I was more leaning into the stereotypes, right?
Mm.
That I was kind of fighting personally my whole life. Um, so like, being the side character, being like, I guess the nerdier character. So I'm like, oh wow, is that what you want me to be? Do you want me to be like kind of more not the lead and more of like this like side token character? Um, but as the years have been going on, I'm getting more of the lead roles and more of the roles that are
Yeah.
not typical, and like the romantic lead or like the guy who like is a normal, athletic, relatable person, So as I've been getting roles recently, that has been, encouraging me that the world is actually changing, or even kind of hopefully I'm helping the, roles
Yeah.
change, like I said when I was a kid. So I think that's been encouraging.
Did that spark the reason why you got into writing and directing, and how like your experiences behind the camera impacted the work that you do on screen and vice versa?
Yeah, I've always so I actually I went to I did like film directing in college. Is like I had always had this. I eventually want to pull like a Ben Affleck, like I want to do the thing in front of the camera, but at the same time, definitely want to create. And because I have all these ideas. I have these big ideas on stories, and like kind of like formulating the world, because I'm a huge nerd. So I love like kind of like almost like what Marvel's doing, Kevin Feige,
Mhm.
like creating like these worlds. So um yeah, one of the first things I did outside of school with Wong Fu Productions was this short called In Between, where kind of what we're talking about. It was a Asian American guy who I play, who feels too Asian with his white friends and too white with his Asian friends. And um that was a personal story, and it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah.
um Not without, I didn't even realize, like not even just Asians, but like fans I have in the Latino community and the Black community, like not feeling Hispanic enough or not feeling Black enough, and then half Asians, not like it's like literally in between, like, oh, do I go for my Caucasian side or the my Asian side? So that's been really rewarding, and it also helps my acting, because now I'm realizing it's so easy as actors to just get lost in your own thing, but you're really part of this team, and we're all creating
Yeah.
one, as cliche as it sounds, one big like canvas, one big painting, and we're all working together. And it's kind of like making me realize this whole thing is like a sport, and that's been really
Mm.
rewarding, because we're all like in it together
Yeah.
to create this thing that hopefully excites people. Yeah,
Definitely. I got a question about that later on, but you
yeah,
you
yeah.
ma- you made your return to Kung Fu this season. Can you take us back to that moment when you got that call that they were bringing you back? Did the showrunners or the writers ever indicate to you that there was a potential to bring Simon back?
Yeah, so my whole kung fu journey has been really great. So I tested, right, for the Ryan role. So
Yeah.
one of the series regs in back in February of 2020. And it was a lot, it was one of my first testing processes. And it was so fun because it was all my Asian friends that I've seen in the acting world. Usually we're going out for the same one role, but now we're like, oh my God, we all have a role that we could potentially play. So it was great, did the studio test, the network test, got really far. It was down to me and JP, excellent JP, who ended up booking it. But we became friends throughout that whole process. And then I was like, okay, well, hopefully they liked what I did thus far, and they call me back for another role. They call me back for another role, audition for that. Didn't even get that one. Call me back for a role again another time, the K-pop star role, the Simon Lau role. And then I booked that. So that in itself was already a great, Cinderella story of didn't get something, but you'll get on the show eventually.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I knew it was just gonna be one episode. This role was written as just a one-off episode. The character dies at the end of it. So I approached it like, okay, you know what? Anything can happen in TV world. I'm just gonna give it my all and hopefully showcase what I could do, my like superhero mindset of like my idea of this character, because he is an interesting character,
Yeah.
K-pop star by day, but secretly has this legend that no one that he's not telling people about, but he actually has been trained. So I was like, this is a cool character. I can see this like in spin-off territory. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna approach it
Mhm.
like that, like a backdoor pilot. everyone, fast forward, everyone loves the episode. People have been texting me like, oh my God, people really
Yeah.
like this episode. Like behind the scenes, like actors, and then, people who are, producers and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this sounds good. And then I heard in the rumor world, like, I think they were trying to bring you back somehow. And I'm just like, okay, okay. Again, also trying to keep my hopes, here, just like, okay, if you want me, that's good. At least I have some fans now. And then slowly, as the months after a whole season, right? Because that was season one. As
Yeah.
the months went on, I got some news that, like, oh, they want to see your availability for some of these dates coming up for a few episodes. And I'm just like, okay. And then I it's funny, the I was gonna visit my family in later in the summer, but then some of the dates were there. So I was like, hey fam, can I visit earlier? Because I think I might not be available. And so I actually changed my trip back to New York to visit my fam earlier. And then on that trip, I got the official call, like,
Mhm.
okay, you're coming back. And I'm like, okay, first off, it's a good thing I I changed this trip. Second off, I was able to celebrate with my family, like,
Yeah.
because I'm here in LA with no family. So it was really nice to be with them in person. We got to celebrate there. And then, yeah, it's almost like a fantasy going back to Kung Fu, honestly. Like if you pinched me and told me it was like a dream, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I dreamt this up. I wished I asked a genie to bring me back, and they did it, right. That, yeah, too good to be true. But it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the Kung Fu fam. So
Perfect segue to this next question, but your father grew up on the original Kung Fu. What has it been like getting to share this milestone with him? And also your mom, who talked to you about kind of the challenges of breaking into this industry.
it's been really great. In a way, sometimes my parents joke like, oh, we wish, Michael grew up to be a pharmacist or something, or, like a normal, like, not as crazy of a career. But like they're to blame. They raised me on loving cinema and TV shows. And my mom like introduced me to anime and stuff growing up. And then my dad would always watch Turner Classic Movies with me. And and they grew up, they were born and raised in New York. So they grew up with American cinema and TV shows.
Mhm.
So my dad grew up with, in the time when there were no Asian leads, like, the Kung Fu was a white guy playing an Asian guy, but still that's all he had. So that's what he watched, because like, oh, it's an Asian thing. That's kind
Yeah.
of, in my, that interests me. So he would always talk about Kung Fu. And so that's how I even knew about it. So it was really awesome to be like, oh my God, guess what I'm going to be in?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be in the reboot of this show that you always talked about to me when I was a kid. He actually texted me his pictures of his Kung Fu merch the
Oh,
other day.
cool.
Yeah. One day there'll be Simon Lau. Simon. Um, but yeah, that was particularly cool to be able to share with him.
Like you were saying earlier, the Kung Fu fan base is like no other. What has it been like getting to see their reactions and support through social media? And have you ever experienced something like this throughout your career?
Yeah, it's no, I have not experienced anything like this in my career. This is I'm so appreciative that, so yeah, it was not only the people behind the scenes who were fans, but the fans themselves were like tweeting and making their love of the character known. So the character who kills me in the season one,
Yeah.
Julan, and she's also a loved character, but she's like a bad guy in season one. And but that just goes to show she's so loved that people, even though all the bad things she did, they were like, oh, we still love you. We want to give you a redemption arc. But she said the only death that people gave her crap for was like, we love you, but I can never forgive you for killing Simon. Because like they that was the one guy where they were like, why did you kill him? You shouldn't have done that. So it was really great to hear all the audience support and wanting to bring me back. Oh, him back, me back. And yeah, so it's just been warm from both sides. And I had to like keep it a secret so much. Like there were all these behind the scenes like hangouts that we were having
Yeah.
with guests, and then like they were like, oh, we gotta crop mic out. So there's so many photos like that fan accounts have like retweeted of like the cast hanging out, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm there, but I'm just like I'm right next to I'm right next to them right there. They just had to crop me out. But when they found out that I was back, it was great. The reactions were amazing.
That's gonna be fun for you too. I know Olivia constantly is posting kind of behind the scenes photo, but then like blurring out you and like Ben before that's me.
Right. Yeah. And it's because I myself am a fan of these types of shows. So I'm the one, I get it. Like I'm the one who's like pouring over, like, oh my God, is that the person who's playing the new Superman? Is that the person who's playing the new Captain America? Like so it's funny, out of body experience being like, oh, I am that person right now. I have to, okay, I have to make sure that the Warner Brothers police don't snipe me for revealing it.
Yeah, like you're saying, Simon and Jalon have had such a quite the journey together. What was it like getting to collaborate with Yvonne again and bring this new shade to the Simon Jalon dynamic? And were you surprised by Simon's reaction to Jalon entering the Shadow Realm?
Yeah. So Yvonne is one of my newer friends because she's from Canada. So I actually didn't know her going into Kung Fu. I knew like everyone, all the LA, Asian actors. So it was kind of great to get to have her as my scene partner because it was so new. It was like oh, we're starting from from step one. And she's been amazing. Like I thought it was such a fun character arc because yeah, who's the last person you'd want to meet in
Yeah.
hell? The person, who's like you who probably hates you the most for putting you there too. And yeah, so I thought that was like, ooh, so juicy because
Yeah.
it gives such a it gives a lot of drama for her, and then also gives my character a fun arc because I thought it would be fun to make it like a fun like buddy cop road trip through the spirit realm. But it's interesting if it doesn't start there. It starts
Mm,
for like, okay, we're at odds,
yeah.
I don't want you to follow me. I've been in the spirit realm for a while because of you. So good luck. um, but I like what the writers did where there's other circumstances that kind of forces us, like the reluctant friends, like
Yeah.
the enemy is my friend. Those situations have always been so fun in sci-fi shows like like Terminator and things like that. So yeah, I thought that was really fun to play, and Yvonne's such a great scene partner. She's the most like not like her character. What with her accent, and also she's not mean at all. So when she like goes in, it's so fun to act with her because it's like, oh wow, we're doing it. We're in another world right now. This is not you. So that's been, and also on top of that, we were in another realm. We were in the spirit world that
Yeah.
felt like Lord of the Rings. So it was so fun having her be my partner in crime going through that.
It's such a great arc for both your characters. We're seeing the next evolution of representation in this industry where we don't have to call to attention to it. And Kung Fu is a huge step in kind of paving that way. Why do you think the industry has taken so long to get here? And when did you start noticing that shift for yourself?
Yeah. I think it took long because I think the industry likes to go by like data. I don't think they really like are like taking it personally, like, oh, we're not going to give you Asian roles because you're Asian. I almost, now that I've been in the industry for a while, they just go by data. Like, oh, did Tom Cruise make a lot of money? Great, there's gonna be more Tom Cruise movies. So unfortunately, there haven't been, before, back in the day, there haven't been a lot of examples of Asian led movies making money. So they're like, okay, well, we don't want to take a risk. It's like a business. So, you don't want to put stocks in something that is risky or has no data. But now, luckily, we're living in the best timeline where like Crazy Rich Asians came out and we made a lot of money. And then like, oh, great, we can make a superhero movie with Asian leads. And I'm so glad we're here because I still remember clearly the time of YouTube where Wong Fu Productions and Ryan Higa and Kev Jumba clearly the audience was there. People were watching things with Asians in it. We're not, it's like they were not afraid of Asian main characters. It's just that there was no precedence for it. So they
Mhm.
kind of had to take a risk to make it happen. And now that it's happening, it's like we're fighting the good fight. Like all the
Yeah.
Asian actors are here, like ready to like, step up to the plate. And it's inspiring too, because in the beginning, that system almost like pits people against each other. Because if there's
Yeah.
only one Asian role, then it's almost like it's forcing the Asians to fight against each other. And that's messed up, because it's like, oh, we're not the enemy. The enemies are not ourselves. The enemy should be
Yeah.
like, out there, kind of like Simon and Julan. We have to be team up and fight against it, and actually be proud when like, okay, if I didn't get the role, you got the role, because now if you're successful in it, more stuff happens, and then all of the ships rise. Um, so yeah, we're living in a really good time right now. I've also forgot to mention with the Julan storyline, the us both being guardians in the mythology. That was really cool to see, because you never really got to see other guardians team up.
Mm, good point.
So
Yeah.
so that's just a cool mythological thing, a lore thing. Like, she's the guardian of the sword weapon, and I'm the guardian of the meteor hammer. So it's like, oh wow, we're of the same ilk. And that was fun to see, because we never got to see two guardians of the galaxy come together before.
Definitely. And, like you're saying, this is such a competitive industry, and we're finally at a point where we're seeing more diversity and representation on the screen, but that hasn't always been the case. And the Kung Fu cast, yourself included, have always been advocates that there's enough room at the table for everyone. How has this community impacted your own career? And have you had the time to reflect on the impact that you're having on now future generations who are trying to make their mark as storytellers?
Yeah. The the first question, like the cast helping each other come together, it's it's like I listen to podcasts of actors who like seasoned actors who've been in shows that I grew up with, who talked about this is when they all hung out together when they first moved out to LA and helped each other out. And these are big names who are like now big directors of like big studio films. But back in the day, they just moved out to LA and were like helping each other on projects. And I was like, man, I hope one day we can have that. Like one day we can, almost like we're living an origin story right now. And thanks to shows like Kung Fu, it is becoming that now. We're all in positions where we're not just asking what if, we're actually kind of we have roles, and we're working on awesome stuff and collaborating and lifting each other up. There was a really cool experience I had on one of the episodes where Ben Levin and Eddie Liu, we all three of us were waiting room buddies, where we would always see each other at callbacks, auditioning for the same one role. And then now we were filming together and hanging out, and we're like, oh my God, we're now years later in the same one episode
Mm,
of TV. Like, it showed, like, and because we're three different Asian guys. Back in the day, the scripts all only thought of us as one Asian guy, but now we're three, Ben's half Asian, Eddie's full Chinese, I'm half Chinese, half Korean. Like, there's room for all of us. So that's been really inspiring to me. And in terms of reflecting on the fans, yeah, I think that's one of the pros I like about social media. Like, you kind of get that direct response. Like, I've gotten a lot of DMs and stuff about like live reactions
yeah.
on on thankfully what the roles I've played have meant to them and the projects that they see me do. I just got one today that was so sweet, about someone who I guess was like too shy to say hi to me, but they just want to say that they've been watching my stuff, and so they're so happy for my new role, and like it's inspiring to them. And that's honestly what I do it for. Like, that support and those comments keep me going, and actually literally keep me going. They voiced it and got me back in the show. So just factually, those comments keep me alive.
Yeah, they're pitching for a Simon spinoff now too. I got one
Yes.
final one final question for you. You're such a dynamic storyteller. As you look ahead to the next 5 to 10 years, is there a dream role or story that you would love to bring to life, either as an actor, or writer, or director? And then what's next for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, as like this, I think it's great that we're having a bunch of specific Asian stories now with like a lot of like, Chinese, like the Chinese American, the Chinese superhero. And there's a new show about like the Vietnamese culture coming out. Um, I'm Asian American. I would love there to be shows with characters that I call Asian for no reason, you know, like, because as much as I am Asian, I'm also American, just like non-Asian Americans are, I'm American. So I would love to play roles, and like specifically superhero that, can just be like like they just happen to be Asian, you know?
Yeah,
um and it's not like it hasn't happened before, like, Glenn from The Walking Dead. He was a cool character that they weren't like, oh, he's here because he's Asian. It's like, no, he's just a cool character who
yeah.
happens to be Korean. So I think that's my goal. I'd love to be a character. Like there's an Asian Superman in the comics. He has Superman's powers. He's not like nothing related to, that he has Superman's powers. He's Asian Superman. I think that would be really cool.